All right, so we got a ton of brand new details from a new interview with Saber Interactive where they talk about Siege Mode, Dreadnoughts, and most importantly, future seasons. We're talking about year 2 because yes, we're nearing the end of year 1 here, and it's been a pretty decent year. Of course, some of the content has been pretty slow rolling out here, but what a way to end this year with Horde Mode. But get this, we're also seeing a shieldless Bulwark in the future. I kid you not, this is going to be a significant shift for the Bulwark. Kind of curious to see what this means. So yeah, we'll talk about that as well. We're going to get into all those details. Plus, we have more official responses from the dev team out on their official Discord, of course, and we are going to go over your top comments as well. But I wanted to start out with the official stuff first out on the Discord because, yeah, you guys are probably wondering, hey, Robbie, when are we going to see the community update, the official stuff here? So here's the question. How's the community update coming along, sister? We got a response from Focus's very own Sister Hylia, who says this: I'm on it. I shall post it on Wednesday. So yes, expect that breakdown right here. If you miss it, I will have the full breakdown for you ready to go. So remember, as always, if you haven't, subscribe, turn on those bell notification icons so you never miss another update. So anyway, moving on here, we also have this one right here. Is there some kind of growth system in Siege Mode? And the answer is I'll break down the gameplay mechanics in the upcoming community update as well. So we're going to be getting even more details about Siege Mode. I'm actually super excited about that one. But let's get into this very big interview because they revealed some really cool stuff in this one. And here's the headline once again right here. So let's go ahead and dive into it and see what was said here. So it says this: Warhammer Space Marine 2 has just revealed Siege, its upcoming take on the classic Horde mode. There's a debut teaser trailer, screenshots, and initial details on how it will work. But as a big Warhammer 40,000 and Space Marine 2 fan, I wanted to know more, so I sent over a list of questions to Tim Willits, Chief Creative Officer at developer Saber Interactive, to answer my burning questions. So he got some interesting replies. So let's get into question number 1. In Siege Mode, do we play as unnamed Marines who failed to extract from Kadaku, like the ones during the campaign perhaps, who died? And the answer is this: everyone will get to play with their existing Operations PvE Space Marines, with all their already unlocked gear and progression. Those who have not leveled their characters up to level 25 will therefore be able to progress in Siege Mode in the same way they would with regular operations. And yeah, so it's interconnected through and through to the PvE current setup with the PvE progression system. So I think that is pretty cool. Would you guys prefer the progression system to be separate, or do you like how they've actually done this? Let me know in the comments below. And we got this question right here: does Siege Mode take place at a certain point in the campaign, or is it entirely separate? Does it continue the story by following on from the campaign? And Tim Willits responded saying Siege Mode is adjacent to the events of the campaign, as it takes place on the first planet we visit, Kadaku, but isn't directly linked to it in the same way some operations are, as events of Siege Mode don't directly influence the campaign. Also, do we see new areas of Kadaku in Siege Mode that have not previously been shown? Great question there, and the response is this: yes and no. Technically, it's not a new area of Kadaku. Titus and his squad go through this Imperial fortress during the first mission of the game to reactivate an antenna and allow for an orbital cannon to fire on Tyranid Hive ship above. Our role in Siege Mode is to defend this fortress, but we do not get to visit more of it. And I've always said I always wanted to revisit that particular portion of the campaign, and here we go. It's finally happening. So the big question for you guys is, if Horde Mode goes off of what they are doing currently, which is revisiting key parts of the campaign and certain missions and levels, what would you guys like to see next for Horde Mode? That's the big question. What areas would you like to see revisited? All right, so what do we have next? What is the big new mech we see in the teaser trailer? Do we get to pilot it? And Tim Willits says this: it is Brother Voltus, the mighty Redemptor Dreadnought from the Ultramarines 2nd Company. Now, we already know this bit. Players won't be able to pilot it, but they'll be able to call him as a reinforcement throughout their Siege Mode games. Now, what we didn't know is we saw some screenshots recently appear on a recent Twitter post out there from Focus Entertainment that showcased that there were 5 Space Marines active on the field, and a lot of players were wondering, hey, are they expanding this to 5 playable human players? Are we going to be able to have more of our friends join us? And we did get a response out on the official Discord. Anything beyond the 3 human players is going to be additional AI support. So do not expect the player count for human players to be upped beyond that 3-player count. And Tim Willits is going to reconfirm that here as we get through this article as well. Now also, here is another one. Do Tyranid and Chaos enemies mix in the same wave, or are they separated by waves? And Tim Willits says this: Tyranid and Chaos waves will come separately. Although that would be pretty weird and wild to see them mixed up and matched up. But again, there has to be like story lore reasons for that sort of thing. And the next question is, do you plan to have any new enemy types or unique bosses for Siege Mode? Season 4, I believe, is due a new enemy. And Tim Willits goes on to confirm Siege Mode won't release with a new enemy, but all the existing ones will be there. Only mission-specific bosses like the Hive Tyrant from the Decapitation mission and the Trigon from Exfiltration won't be in Siege Mode. However, we can already say that the new enemies will bring with future updates, like the one scheduled with Season 4, will also be added to Siege Mode. So yes, it is confirmed that we will be getting new enemies, plural, here in the future, which is pretty cool. Now, what do we got next? So, how exactly does each wave ramp up the difficulty? And the response is this: more Minoris and Majoris enemies, more Extremis enemies, and more Terminus bosses as well. Sometimes several bosses at once even. It gets very hectic. I cannot freaking wait. Sounds like it's going to be an absolute chaotic battle for survival. The question is, how long can you survive? So that's going to be the big one. And I'm kind of curious to see what type of potential rewards we could also receive. You know, about that, hopefully we get some more updates about that one on Wednesday, so stay tuned. Now, we also have, are there any Siege Mode exclusive rewards? Wow, I can't believe that's the next question. All right, so Tim Willits says this: there will be unique Siege Mode exclusive cosmetic rewards for players to unlock, the same way we introduce rewards for completing missions in absolute difficulty. For instance, Siege Mode will also reward players with armory data, requisition points, and XP depending on the performance. So it's going to be all about getting those really cool cosmetics. Hopefully they're cool looking, of course. That's what it comes down to. If they're not cool looking, then you can say that the rewards would be a failure, of course. They got to be cool looking, so crossing my fingers that's actually the case here. All right, so what do we got next here? Can you explain the considerations behind sticking to 3 players for Horde mode? Which I get that a lot of you guys were really disappointed by. But Tim Willits didn't answer this question. He says this: as we mentioned in the past interview, sticking to 3 players for PvE game modes, including Siege Mode, has to do with the challenge we're able to provide, and specifically the enemies we're able to throw at you and your friends. Having 4 Space Marines together for a PvE mission simply made it too easy, and scaling enemy assaults to justify bringing a 4th player was too great of a challenge. Although I gotta say, it would be amazing to see even larger scale warfare with Space Marine, of course, and Space Marine 2, maybe even Space Marine 3. But I think that that might be, I don't know, an entirely different game. And we might be talking about, and I've mentioned it before, a Warhammer Battlefront style game, which, by the way, have you guys seen the resurgence of Star Wars Battlefront 2? I think it's safe to say that a lot of people want Star Wars Battlefront 3, and it would be cool, again, to see a Warhammer Battlefront style game. It would just be absolute badass. In my opinion, it fits perfectly with this universe. But anyway, back to the interview, because I can go on and on about that. Could you expand Siege Mode to include more than 3 players in the future? Many players are asking for this, and he says this: we don't have such plans at this time, which is definitely a bummer. IGN doubles down here, saying the recent 12-player mod got a lot of attention. Can you say if there are any plans to expand the maximum number of players in co-op for Space Marine 2? Here's the response: there aren't, but that's a perfect opportunity for us to give a shout out to our very passionate and talented modding community. We can't wait to see what they'll be able to create with everything Siege Mode gives them. Hell yes. So maybe, just maybe, we'll see 12-player mod support for Siege Mode. Honestly, I would not be surprised if that ends up happening. And what's this? Has the development team worked on class conflicts for PvE? Some players are reporting it happening less frequently, but I hadn't seen an announced change. And I did highlight recently that, yeah, a lot of you guys are seeing positive changes there, so we have to give credit where credit is due. Kudos to the dev team for that one. But here's a response from Tim Willits. We did introduce tweaks to the matchmaking system with our Trigon update last April, which made it less likely to be matched with players of the same class, and we have seen fewer and fewer reports about this issue. We'll continue to monitor the situation as we go and make adjustments if needed. Hell yes, love to see it. Good news there. Now, also, IGN goes on to say this: you've said Space Marine 2 will receive a new class. Can you provide an update on when that might arrive and tease what the class will be? Tim Willett says this: there is indeed a new class in the works, but we'll need a few more weeks before we're ready to share more info, so stay tuned to our next announcement. So this is going to be announced pretty soon here, hopefully sometime here in summer. It's kind of my prediction there, but we'll see if that pans out to be true or not. I think once we get the roadmap, we'll get the brand new class announced. All right, furthermore, we got this one. What else can players expect from Season 4? Tim Wills goes on to confirm, in addition to 2 new DLCs for Season Pass owners coming with Siege Mode, the White Scars Chapter Pack and Blood Angels Cosmetic Pack, Season 4 will bring a new game mode for PvP, a new Chaos enemy, and a heap of small tweaks to class perks, absolute difficulty, or the ability to fight as, get this, a shieldless Bulwark with the Thunder Hammer. There's more to it too, but you'll have to wait a little longer. Holy cow, okay. That sounds like a pretty big change up right there. That's a big announcement there. So I am so curious to see what they're going to be doing with the Bulwark. And yes, we got this one right here. As we approach the end of the Year 1 roadmap, can you say when Season 4 comes to an end, what players can expect in terms of support and new content? Can players expect future seasons, a second season pass perhaps? I sure hope so. I think that would be really, really cool, but here's their official take. Our exact plans for the future of Space Marine 2's post-launch support are still being ironed out at this time, but we're already committed to supporting it beyond our Year 1 roadmap. We've got new missions, new weapons, and a new class currently in the works, on top of which are many more surprises we have yet to announce. We have a lot for players to be excited about for the Emperor. That's what I want to hear, long-term support for this game. I'm not surprised, considering again what they have done with their other franchise, World War Z. They've really supported that one. I'm also kind of curious to see what type of long-term support they're going to be giving to Turok Origins when that finally drops. It would be amazing to have 2 crazy good co-op games to rotate between Warhammer and then Turok Origins. I'm so ready for that, let me tell you what. But, you know, it's so cool to hear that he's already confirming here that we will be getting entirely new missions. I'm assuming that does mean operations, and then we got the weapons, and then, yes, the new class, which still remains a mystery. There's been the Tech Marine leaks, by the way. You got to remember that. Seems like from the leaks, at least, they're leaning more towards that. There's been rumors about Apothecary, but they did say that that's currently not in the works, at least right now. But it seems like a lot of you guys really want Apothecary. Let me know if that's still the case or not. If you've really shifted more towards this Tech Marine leak and you're like, hey, bring me the Tech Marine. That's what I want now. But yeah, overall, some really exciting stuff. And that wraps up that interview right there. So we got some brand new details. Again, really curious to see what happens with this Bulwark. But you guys know what time it is. It is time to go over your top comments. Remember to leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. Let's see what you guys had to say. So the first comment is this one. The extra Marines are likely an NPC squad that you can summon like the Dreadnought. I wouldn't be surprised if you can summon all sorts of assistants like additional Marines, squads of Guardsmen, or perhaps even the tanks we saw in the campaign over the course of the match. Here's my take on that, and let me know if you guys agree with me on this. I think what they're going to do is initially they will keep the summons somewhat limited to what we're seeing in the screenshots, which is going to be the Dreadnought and the actual Space Marines. With each update and iteration of Horde mode, with new additional maps and that sort of thing, they'll probably likely add more support units to keep the community excited and engaged. At least that's what I think they're going to do. That's my take on it. Because also, it seems like that's how they've been doing the game anyway. So yeah, we'll see if that pans out to be true or not. Now, what do we have next? We have this one. Every time Terminators being playable gets brought up, you get the "they're too slow and can't dodge" crowd come in. That's the point. They're meant to just eat that damage. Hell yes, and I'm all for it. It would definitely be a different playstyle for sure. Not for everyone. Now, we also have the Extra Marines are 100% just AI, like the campaign. Anytime you see other Ultramarines, they're just AI. Yep, that's confirmed. Then we have the Crux Terminatus is one of the highest honors any member of the Adeptus Astartes can earn. Not only does it qualify them for Terminator armor, but there's a legend that probably has more truth to it. Each Crux badge has a shard of the Emperor Mankind's personal armor incorporated into them. As such, a Space Marine chapter will go to great lengths to recover these badges, almost as much as a Fallen Brothers gene seed. Interesting. God, keep bringing on the lore. Let me tell you what, that is really, really cool. And you know, this sort of thing also gets me super hyped for the Amazon TV series. I cannot wait for that one. I just want like a trailer or some sort of like behind the scenes screenshot or something like that. But yeah, anyway, I'm watching out for any type of news about that as well for you guys. Now, we also have someone, please, for the love of God, make the dev team give us visible holstered weapons. That would be so badass. I've seen the mods for it. Looks really cool. I wanted to try using a simple mod, but can no longer play public. Sad face. It's just a nice visibility, something we've seen in the cinematics of the main game too. Yeah, I wish they would throw it in there. It makes a lot of sense that you would be able to see that anyway, and I think it just adds a lot to even like character customization. If you're going to have skins for weapons, to be able to have it holstered to see your customized weapons at all times, even if you're not using them, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so there it is, the latest happenings around Space Marine 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. Exciting things happening here as we approach the end of the year 1 roadmap. Curious to see what happens in year 2, but I'll keep you guys in the know as always. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.